Hello, I'm Tom Blomberg, Dean of the College of Criminology and Criminal Justice. What follows are tributes to Mrs. Mary Harris, who was with the college for over 50 years in the role as an administrative assistant. In that role, she worked with thousands of undergraduate, graduate students, as well as staff, and also helped many, many faculty. I think it's particularly fitting that we're able to honor Mrs. Harris at the annual dinner for alumni and friends of criminology.
Back in 1967. Vern Fox was the program chair at that time. And Mary was a very helpful young secretary who was being extremely helpful, doing everything she could to make a person who was looking for a job feel comfortable.
Coming from the West Coast, I was not very familiar with the South. I was not familiar with the Southern customs. I had just seen the movie Deliverance, and I had these crazy images that you'd go out on a river somewhere and there would be trouble.
The first person I met at FSU was Mary Harris, and it was stunning to me because she was very Southern and I was very Yankee, and I wondered whether I was going to fit in here.
I made a deal with my wife and my son, and that deal was in 2 weeks. If you guys are still unhappy living in Tallahassee, then we'll move back to Berkeley. Mrs. Harris got involved, and it all changed. And she took all three of us out. We spent a long time with her, and she convinced all three of us if we would give Tallahassee 12 months, we would fall in love with it and be just in love with Tallahassee as much as she was.
Most administrators are smart enough to realize that your deans and chairs and so forth are people who have to make official decisions, but there are other people that actually run departments. And I think everybody knew that Mary was the one who ran criminology.
Mrs. Harris was a giant in the college in the sense that she knew the history. She had gone to Florida State herself. She knew the development of criminology. She had worked with Dr. Vernon Fox very carefully. She knew the trials, the tribulations that the college had gone through. She had seen it through. And so she had just such institutional wisdom, which she shared, and she was very smart.
Her role was to be a protector of students, and at the same time, sometimes a sort of a stern taskmaker for students, because students would come to her with all sorts of questions. She also would guide particularly new young faculty, such as myself in the early days, in terms of helping them avoid some pitfalls that they might encounter. She obviously helped the dean, or at that time the chair of the program, in terms of just sort of keeping an ongoing operation. She handled all of the course scheduling type things. She was the staff.
I was an undergraduate criminology major. I believe I was a junior in college, and as I recall, she was the only person that helped students in terms of registration, deciding what classes to take. Faculty also helped in that regard, but she was the go-to person for students, both undergraduate and graduate students.
We're here to help the students. If I heard that once coming from her, I heard it 1,000 times. I mean, that was her whole focus. And anything that we weren't doing to help students was supposedly indirectly aimed at trying to help students in some way.
If you needed forms signed, if you needed access to the dean, if you needed the university to do something for you as part of your educational progression, you had to have Mary Harris on your side. That was without question. And without her, nothing would get done.
she was an absolute magnet for the students, there would always be students in her office talking to her, always, and she wanted that more than she wanted anything. And she didn't need this job. I mean, she did this job because she liked being with the students. I always felt like she tolerated the rest of us because that gave her an opportunity to be around the students, and she really liked the students.
Her office was always packed with people sitting there waiting their turn. The dean, who had the outer office, he didn't have that much business, but she had a lot of business, and that's just the way it was.
All the students knew who you had to rely on, which was Mary Harris.
She had real strong standards. And so nobody got her to do something that she wasn't going to do or that she didn't feel was appropriate. But she was such a Southern woman, so she could get it done with such a kindly demeanor and such an affable approach that I think even when she was telling students no, it was okay.
Mary was interesting because on the one side, she was the kindest person in the world. As a person, there's no question she was. But on the other hand, when it came to the business of running the college and dealing with students, she was very committed to doing it the right way. So while she was extremely nice and pleasant, she made sure that you were held accountable to do what you had to do on your end so she could get something done for you at her end.
She was a Southern lady under anybody's definition in terms of that, because she had lived her whole life right here in Tallahassee. But she had another side to her in which she could be very firm. And she could be firm with a student, or she could be firm with a faculty member. Because if she thought a faculty member was doing something that wasn't quite right, she wouldn't hesitate to let them know. That wasn't a common kind of thing, but it did occur. And the same with students. If she saw students that she didn't feel were behaving at the level that college students should behave, then she would let them know. And I think students tended to appreciate that. She had an expression, though, that she would use.
And I remember vividly, as if it was yesterday, she says, "Dr. Blomberg, you need to come here for a minute. Just come here. Now, I don't want you to get upset when I tell you this, but you need to take this to heart and think about it."
She would say that you can catch more flies with honey than with vinegar.
You're going to get a lot farther in life if you use a lot more sugar and a whole lot less vinegar.
And I heard her make that statement several times and in several totally different contexts.
So it was those kinds of little homespun remedies that she would share.
It's not like it's a secret, like I'm the one who knows this, but Mary Harris, who was a very proper Southern woman, I was always very careful how I spoke in front of Mary. And then you go to a party, and Mary Harris was a lot of fun at a party. And that might be a surprise to some people, and she'd have a drink in her hand and wanted to have a good time and was a good time and was really great fun to be around at a party.
Mary could be a very charming person in those settings. She enjoyed social interactions and so forth, and she would imbibe occasionally, and sometimes she got even more social as the evening went on, as some of us might do.
Well, Mrs. Harris loved her scotch. She was a fond person of very high quality scotch. She was not in any way a heavy drinker or anything like that, but she liked scotch, which was sort of interesting to me when I first found out. But that was one thing that I always will remember about Mrs. Harris. She knew full well the value of scholarships and assistance, but she also recognized accomplishment and how important it is that we reward accomplishment. The Joe Harris Scholarship is such an award. It recognizes academic excellence, but it also is the school's effort to outreach to our students that come from so many different socioeconomic backgrounds and so on, and yet they come here and they realize great things. And again, there have been countless students already that have benefited by the Joseph Harris Scholarship, and there will be countless numbers in the future because of Mrs. Harris. So it's a wonderful legacy that she's left us with the kind of model that she provided the college, and now her continued role will be here through the scholarship, because there will be more students benefiting from her kindness.
Graduate students need support, and the most important thing we can do for our graduate students is fund them so that they can come be grad students. And too many of our students have to spend too much time working and doing other things and not concentrating on school. And so what this fellowship has done is it allows graduate students to concentrate on their work and to become the best graduate students they can be, which is the kind of thing that Mary would have cared about a lot. I mean, that would have been, from her point of view, that would have been perfect.
In more recent years, the award has been added to. It's become more symbolic as well as more financially important to the College of Criminology. Any award of this type would be important, but the fact that this is one of the first and one of the larger awards of this type has been very important to the college, and this is particularly true in times of economic hardship and so forth.
May your memory be for a blessing. And she has guaranteed that her name will be for a blessing here for as long as we're going to have a College of Criminology. I mean, what she's done is so substantial and so wonderful that literally thousands of students will benefit from it.
The fact that her goal, her mission in life virtually, was to help the students who were involved in the College of Criminology. And her statement, and it has been said many times, the students are what it's all about. That's what our purpose, our goal is. Our goal is to be here to help students. And it may well be that her legacy is the fact that that continues in the college. And it may be that she helped make us more aware of the importance of that.
I can tell you that in the last 8 years, this college has become recognized as the #1 program really in the world. And I know Mrs. Harris told me on a number of occasions how proud she was to see this college rise to those levels. But I can also tell you, she said, you ought to be there. So it wasn't like, oh, that's just a great thing. It was something like, well, you've done what you're supposed to do. So I know that she's very pleased, as we are.